That's what I saw building small businesses all over New York, where we created 1,000 jobs, was people solving problems. They weren't Democratic or Republican solutions. It was just a question of how do you solve a problem? How do you generate revenue? How do you pay the bills? How do you balance your budget? That's what the innovation is that drives this country. That's my experience as an innovator and a small business person. Now, one of the things that I took from seeing that Declaration of Independence and thinking about the United States and how it started is that you've got to get the people involved. And Larry mentioned one of the things I've done since I got in Congress. In my first year, I traveled around to every single town in this district, 137 towns, and did some kind of public meeting there so that people could come out and share their thoughts about what was going on, whatever the issue of the day is, whatever they want me to be working on in Congress, and whatever their concerns are. And they said consistently, we want people to work together to solve problems, and we want you to work on getting this economy moving, which makes perfect sense to me. We've got a tough recession out there. That's what we need to be working on. And one of the key issues in getting that done is getting the government's budget and fiscal house in order. I hear that from people all over this district. It's not a hard thing to figure out. I'm a fiscal hawk, a budget hawk, somebody who's been thinking about this all my life. We've got to balance our budget. We've got to be responsible. What do we do to do that? Well, I think the things that we started this year are starting to move us in the right direction. Rules like pay-as-you-go, which says if you're going to pass some new spending, you've got to find some way to offset it. You've got to pay for it. You've got to cut something else. It's common sense decision making, the kind that we use in our families and our small businesses all the time, and it's the kind of decision making that I bring from my background to the table in Washington. And what do you do for the long term? How do you solve this big problem? You work together. And what did we do in Congress? We passed and got put in place this Deficit Commission, Deficit Reduction Commission. 18 people, half Democrats, half Republicans, working together to come up with solutions to solve our problems. That's what I'm excited about being part of. That's what we're trying to work on in Washington, and that's what we've got to do to get this country moving. Now, the other piece of this is how do we get this economy moving? For me, there's a couple facets to that, and a lot of you have heard me talk about this. One of the critical things we do is we get government out of the way. There are a lot of places where small businesses, like the kind that I ran, run into red tape and bureaucracy and rules that are out of date that slow us down. I just got rid of one of those last week. I'm proud to be part of passing the Wall Street Reform Bill. Many of you are probably excited about that. And in that bill was a law that I introduced and that we got rolled into that bill, which made it legal again for banks to pay interest to small businesses on their checking accounts. 80 years ago, we passed a law to make it illegal for banks to pay interest to small businesses on their checking accounts. It made no sense. It's been around for 80 years. No one even remembered why it was on the books, but it was, some of the banks didn't want us to take it off the books, but it's just allowing the free market to work. It's getting government out of the way. We didn't need a rule about this. If the bank wants to pay interest, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. Let competition work. That's the way you get them out, get rules and government out of the way of your small businesses. This kind of stuff that I saw as a small business person. Now, there are other places where I think you absolutely have to have government supporting and helping. Where's that? That's in our education. Education is not going to happen without public investment, public support. And we aren't going to have innovation and the 21st century jobs that we need if we don't have a strong, educated workforce. That's one of the great things we've got here in New York. We're very successful. We've got to continue to invest. As knowledge grows, we've got to double down on this. This year we did some of that. We invested in our community colleges and higher education loans, but we've got to continue to do that. So one of the pillars for me of what government can do to help our economy is investing in education. Now, that's part of my Renew Upstate New York plan. Second pillar, infrastructure. Absolutely critical. Our small businesses can't grow and flourish without infrastructure. What's that mean? It means people like Preston Jenkins I see over here in Moreau, who's working on water and sewer infrastructure. He's the supervisor and he's working hard on those projects, and we're working with him to come up with the funds to put those things in place, because your businesses need water and sewer infrastructure before they can grow. And I think we're going to get that done in Moreau, and we're going to see that continue to drive us forward. It's infrastructure like broadband internet. There's a goat farm up in Thurman that I visited on my travels around this district, where they had the opportunity to get in the Williams-Sonoma Christmas catalog and get all the orders from that and it grew and grew, but they couldn't get internet access. And they could only get dial-up. It turned into a 5-hour-a-day project just to download the orders. And the next year, Williams-Sonoma called them up and said, hey, we want to expand and put you in the catalog more. And they said, you know what? This was too painful. We don't even want to be in your catalog this year because we can't get the information downloaded to send out those orders. So they didn't grow. They just stayed the same size. That's infrastructure that it makes sense to have the government investing in, to have public dollars driving that internet all over our district to all the areas that we don't have coverage, and then let the small businesses like the goat farm up in Thurman do their thing and grow. That's where you're going to get your job growth, is those small businesses, but we can provide that infrastructure for them. Third place that it makes sense for us to be involved is on energy policy. We've got to have a real energy policy. For 50 years, our policy has been to ship our dollars to Saudi Arabia to buy oil. That's not an energy policy. The last 20 years, we decided to add to that. Now we borrow those dollars from China to ship them to Saudi Arabia. That's not an energy policy. That's a mess. We've got to move forward. We've got to look at all kinds of alternatives, and we've got to move our economy forward towards renewable, long-lasting energy that will take us into the 21st century and beyond. That's a place that it makes sense for government to be helping and drive some of that innovation and investment. And the last place is just helping our small businesses and farmers get started. The SBA program has been an incredible boon during this economic time. We've doubled the loans in the SBA program this year from where it was before the crisis started, and so many small businesses get help. For us, we helped with a group in Glens Falls called the Chocolate Mill, an entrepreneur that came through our great education system, trained at the Culinary Institute of America, right down in the bottom part of this district, and then came to start a business in Glens Falls. A classic story. Live upstairs, work 24 hours a day, renovate an old decrepit building on Main Street, and start a business. They opened it up, lines were out the door because it was innovation. It was new. There wasn't a fancy chocolate shop in Glens Falls before, but I can tell you, you can look at me and know that it's working as we have one now and all over the community. And the lines are out the door. They've employed a dozen people in the first week to keep up with the business, and that was an SBA loan, locally written by a bank, but government-backed, to get them started in this business. And that's where innovation comes from, a public-private partnership where the government helps, but the private sector goes out and finds those opportunities and grows. So that's a place that makes a lot of sense to me. So as much on the agricultural side, we've got a lot of needs to help our dairy farms in particular. My wife and her sister Amy, who's sitting next to her, come from a dairy farm family. We know the struggles that you face as dairy farmers, and that's something I've spent a lot of time working on this year, is supporting our farms and supporting in particular our dairy industry here in the 20th District. So I'm excited about the opportunities to get this economy going. I'm excited about where we are here in the 20th District with so many things going on. We've got a great educational base. We've got a talented workforce. That's why we've got so much innovation occurring here already. Medical device companies all over the North Country, in Glens Falls, in Queensbury, in Washington County, employ thousands of people with the greatest, latest medical devices. It's a wonderful industry. We've got the biggest private sector project going on anywhere in the country in terms of a manufacturing plant. $4.5 billion going on right here in Saratoga County to bring the latest in chip fab technology, the most advanced in the world here at Global Foundries. That's going on here because, again, we've invested in our infrastructure, we've invested in an educated workforce, and we're there supporting this company to come in and really start to move us forward. So we've got a lot of strengths. It's the chocolate mill at the small end, Global Foundries at the big end. We've got companies of all sizes in between, and we've got more that we can do to help our people like our little goat farm up in Thurman with the infrastructure they need to be able to flourish just like our chocolate mill is in downtown Glens Falls. So I'm very excited about where we're going. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm also very excited to have the support of Democrats and Republicans and independents here in this room, people who are looking to solve problems and to use the skills like I do that come from building businesses and growing families in our communities to do that at the national level and to impact this whole country. So I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to represent you in Congress, and I appreciate you helping me get back to work on this campaign so I can also continue to work on these economic development issues, these fiscal responsibility issues, and working with the people in our community to make a stronger 20th District for today and for our kids and for tomorrow.